Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really crucial topic in the world of data. How do we make sure the information that powers our businesses is not just there, but that it's right? We're going to talk all about data integrity, constraints, and quality in relational systems. So think about this for a second. Your database, it's incredibly obedient. You tell it to insert, update, or delete something, and it just does it, no questions asked. But here's the thing. Your business doesn't just run on commands. It runs on rules. Rules like every single customer has to have a unique ID, or you can't possibly ship an order to a customer who doesn't exist. So how do we get this obedient database to actually understand and enforce those critical business rules? Well, the answer is all about translation. We have to take those abstract business rules, the things people just kind of know, and translate them into a language the database can understand. And that language is the language of constraints. This is how we take a rule and make it a reality inside our data.
Let's kick things off with a super common example. The business says, hey, every customer needs a unique ID. Simple enough, right? In the database, we make that happen with a primary key constraint. Now, this isn't just a suggestion, it's a hard and fast rule. It acts like a bouncer at the door, making it physically impossible to create two customers with the exact same ID.
Okay, so we've got our unique customers, but what about the relationships between things? Your business role might be an order has to be tied to a real existing customer. It can't just be an orphan record floating out there. This is where the foreign key shines. It forges this unbreakable link between, say, the orders table and the customers table. It ensures referential integrity. So if you try to create an order for a phantom customer, the database will just say, nope, not happening, and reject it on the spot. Beyond keys, we've got another really powerful tool called the domain. Think of a domain as a super strict gatekeeper for just one column. It literally defines the entire universe of what's allowed in that field. For instance, a status column might have a domain that only allows 3 specific values: active, inactive, or pending. If you try to sneak in something like discontinued, that domain constraint will stop you in your tracks. It's a fantastic way to prevent bad data from ever getting in. All right, so we're getting pretty good at enforcing rules on the data we store directly. But what about the data that we don't store? I'm talking about information that's calculated from other data points, like, say, the total value of one line item on an invoice. How in the world do we handle that?
Well, the business rule for this has a specific name. It's called a derivation. A derivation is basically the recipe. It's the formula, the logic that says how to turn existing information into new information. It's the rule that states, to get the total value, you have to multiply the product's price by the quantity ordered. And this rule exists as a concept long before anyone writes a single line of code. And here's how that actually plays out. The database doesn't need to waste space storing that line item's value. Instead, the moment you ask for it, it just follows the recipe, the derivation rule. It hops over to the product table to get the price, it grabs the quantity from the line item itself, does the math, and boom, you get the value. And the best part, it's always fresh and perfectly accurate. Now, this brings up a classic dilemma for system designers. They have a choice. Do they pre-calculate this value and store it in a special computed column to make lookups faster? Or do they calculate it dynamically, on the fly, every single time it's needed? This is a fundamental trade-off, really. You're balancing the speed of retrieval against making absolutely sure the data is always 100% up to date. Okay, so we've got our rules locked in as constraints, our calculations are defined as derivations. But, this kind of begs a much bigger question. What does it even mean for data to be good or high quality? How do you formally define that, let alone measure it? It turns out quality isn't just one thing. It's actually a whole collection of different characteristics, like a report card for your data. You've got things like accuracy, which asks that the data matches the real world. And then you have validity, which asks that the data follows the rules we've set. Now, they sound similar, but they're not. You can have a date of birth that is perfectly valid in its format, but it's completely inaccurate for that specific customer. Understanding these different dimensions is really the first step to making any of it better. Let's zoom in on what is arguably the most important one: accuracy. Now, we're not talking about some abstract philosophical concept of truth. In the data world, accuracy is all about how well your data matches up with an original authoritative source, like a signed paper contract or the original digital invoice. So if your database says a customer's name is John Smith, but the signed contract says John Smith, you, my friend, have an accuracy problem. Okay, so this all leads us to the most practical question of all. It's great that we can define what good data looks like and the rules it has to follow, but how do we actually enforce all this in a live, running database? Really, the whole goal of enforcement boils down to one word: conformance. It's all about measuring how well our actual real-world data conforms to the domains we've defined and the business rules we've laid out. Enforcement is just the process of closing that gap between what the data is and what we know it should be. And the way we do this is by using the tools the database already gives us. We've already seen how constraints like primary and foreign keys work. But for more complex business logic, we can use things like database triggers, which are little pieces of code that run automatically when data changes, or stored procedures to systematically check and validate everything. If something doesn't meet our standards, it gets rejected. And it is so important to get this. Measuring quality is not a one-and-done audit. It's a continuous, ongoing process. It means looking at individual pieces of data, sometimes right down to a single cell in a table, and giving it a quality score. By tracking those scores over time, an organization can get a true, living picture of the health of its data. So let's do a quick recap of the journey we just took. First, we translate our business rules into concrete database constraints. Second, we use derivations to handle any calculated data. Third, we define what good data even means with a clear set of characteristics. And finally, we enforce and measure that quality using the database's own built-in features. And this brings us to one final thought to leave you with. The technology to enforce all of this is right there. It's powerful and it's available. Your database can be loaded up with all the constraints in the world. But the real question is, does your organization have the culture and the discipline to define, respect, and maintain those rules for the long haul? Because at the end of the day, technology alone is never the whole answer. And that's our look at the path from abstract business rules all the way to high-quality, reliable data. If you found this useful, we'd really appreciate a like, a share, or a subscription. It helps us make more of these. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.